G'day guys and gal. Coming off the resounding success of my last video on Slaanesh, I thought we would take ourselves back to Warhammer Fantasy and take a peek at their scantily dressed, fiercely sexy Amazonian warriors. As this has been written, the Slaanesh video has been the most viewed Major Kill video in the first 12 hours that I have ever had, by far. It beat Doomslayer vs Astartes by 3,000 views. Doomslayer vs Astartes was my magnum opus, a video I had been hyping and planning for months, released on a Saturday night with a pre-planned premiere. A low-effort, soft-core porn video beat it. I am so proud of you guys. Off that success, we can safely say that powerful female figures that are good at killing people are where it's at, so no better video to post than this one. Before we get started, this Friday I'll be doing a Vermintide 2 stream with Legend of Total War and Loremaster of Sotek. Basically just gonna mess around, kill some heretics, and sink some beers. Well, I'll be sinking beers, Legend doesn't drink, and he'll be mourning for Loremaster. So I'll drink enough beers for all three of us. If you guys are lucky, Miss Legend might also make an appearance, so get on down. Time will be 12 AM ASCT, which is like 7 AM London time or 3 PM Los Angeles time. Not sure why I put LA there as an example, but there you go. It's the exact same time Legend of Total War normally streams. Today we'll go over who the Amazons are and how they came into the world. We'll also discuss their society as well as some of their characters and what they got up to during the end times, and how their end times lore could have been improved. Let's get into it. When the world was young and the old ones began seeding it with life, they created various races. Most of these races had a very practical use. Lizardmen were a direct extension of the old ones, whilst the elves were more of a general ally. Humans were also created but didn't get much favour from the old ones because the elves produced much higher quality big titty girlfriends. In the Amazonian religion, their creation story is that their goddess Rig, weird name for a girl god, and the elven god of wealth and happiness got together and banged, creating Kalim, the mother of the Amazons, and that they inhabited a part of Lustria called Amazonia. I mean, they could have just called it Ukraine considering how hard they've already ripped off Greek mythology by this point. The creativity required to call their land Amazonia is about the equivalent to the creativity I put into which body pillow I'm cuddling up tonight. But we'll let it slide cause they're hot. In reality, creation stories are stupid and inaccurate. What really happened is that Rig was an old one, which was like an intergalactic lizard person. Not really the kind of being who would go around shagging elven gods to spawn tanned exotic women. Modern day Amazons are also not demigods, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be able to track their lineage to an old one and a god. What actually happened is that the old one Rig got sick of elven titties. Sure, they were attractive, but they weren't thick with 2 C's enough, and they were all frigid. This is before dark elves were a thing, remember. Hence he grabbed some random human women, and then genetically modified them to his liking and made them his big titty servants. The lore doesn't really state his exact intention for them, however it seems pretty obvious that what they were there for. Getting that old one lizard dick. The Amazons worked together with the lizardmen in harmony. They were granted wisdom, eternal life, and intense vigor. Everyone was happy. Until the Chaos Nation attacked. The old ones' teleporters on the polar caps of the world collapsed and chaos flooded the world. The old ones were killed and driven off, including Rig, hence the Amazons lost most of their power. Now as devout servants of the old ones, surely they stood and fought against the darkness. They were a warrior race after all. Surely they used the old one tech left behind to great effect. No, they did not. Without their scaly, lustful overlord, the Amazonians fled deep into the Lustrian jungle, where they basically hid and hoped that they would get carried through the apocalypse. Fortunately for them, they did. With the power of Lord Croak and Anarian, so much chaotic ass got kicked that the apocalypse was averted. Lucky for our Amazonians, who then spent the next couple thousand years doing bugger all. Their level of feminism is so high that they don't even need men to breed. They still have some ancient old one tech that works, such as a fountain of youth and artificial insemination. They also have some dope-ass war gear called High Age artifacts, which are weapons created by the old ones, making the Amazons the only faction to have such weapons other than the lizardmen. Whilst the Amazonians were content to hide in Lustria and scissor each other all day while talking about how men are pigs, men had a different idea. Norscan raiders eventually arrived in Lustria to explore it and found themselves getting shot at for the most part. Since the creation of the Norscan settlement Skeggi, dozens of battles have been fought between Norscan and Amazonian, often ending in the Amazonians' favour as, before battle, they often take a lot of drugs, which renders them immune to pain, fear, fatigue, and pretty much all other nasty stuff. Armies of Norscan berserkers and Amazonian meth addicts are always a sight to see. Now, Rig didn't really teach the Amazon women how to build, only how to fight and jerk, so for the most part the Amazons' buildings and huts are incredibly primitive, with only their impressive buildings usually being old lizardmen cities and sacred sites. Generally, when something inhabits a lizardman's sacred site, which isn't a lizardman, they get purged really hard. However, as the Amazons were a direct creation of an old one, the lizardmen considered them to be a part of the Great Plan and let them be, for the most part. See, for some reason, the Amazonians hate Teapot and his followers. Teapot being an old one who is greatly revered, especially by the Slan, hence a lot of Amazonian armour is actually the flayed skin of skinks who follow Teapot. In return, the lizardmen are happy to clap some Amazon cheeks if they get too uppity. Sometimes Amazon women will aid foreign armies in Lustria. In a few rare instances, two opposing armies were both guided and aided by an Amazonian. We aren't sure if they directed them towards each other to try bring death to both, or if the Amazonians are just meme lords who enjoy watching people die, but it can make for a pretty curious sight. The Amazons also consider the Old Ones as their gods, makes sense, and they're also able to make use of their blessings and powers to some degree, as evident by their serpent priestesses, chicks that can invoke Sotek to ruin their enemy's day. Now, with a half-baked faction that didn't get much love and pretty much solely exists in isolation, only fighting against Norskins who for the most part also aren't in the spotlight much, their lore isn't exactly brimming with excitement. In saying that though, they do have some interesting characters. Firstly, we have Mother Samantha, a very Caucasian name for an Amazonian. Through her intelligence and devotion, she quickly rose to the ranks of her society to become the High Priestess of Rig, and wields knives like a badass. Next we have Anaconda, who was named after she killed an anaconda. Nice. She leads an Amazonian group of warriors who are part of the Dogs of War. I guess she got sick of hiding in Lustria scissoring all day. She wields a Blade of the Ancients, which is a fancy word for a sharp thing that kills people. Last on this list we have Pentel Xia. I 100% got that wrong, but you can kiss my dick. Penny, as I'll call her, is the greatest Amazonian warrior to ever live. She rose to prominence when some of her sisters were kidnapped by Norskins, so she waltzes into Skeggy, kills those Norskins, slays their leader in single combat, and saves her sisters. Now she's become a legendary man-hater who kills men all the time, and hangs their shrunken heads from her belt. She also stitches their mouths shut because Games Workshop couldn't help themselves from just throwing in a random reference to Peru. God damn. So now we know the Amazons' origins, religion, characters, what they've been doing. How did they do in the end times? Not well. Well, I mean, like, nobody went well in the end times, but they were like double not well. There was no reference to them at all, not even a sentence. In an interview afterwards, Josh Reynolds said that when the Skaven blew up the moon and Lustria was destroyed, they were crushed under the falling shards and went extinct. Epic. Now, I'm not saying that they needed much detail in them or they needed to become front and center, but at least one battle where the Amazons team up with the Lizardmen to kick some Skaven ass would be appreciated. The Amazons had a lot of dormant Old One tech, and it would have been a pleasure to see warrior chicks riding dinosaurs shooting vermin with plasma guns, but alas, it appears that will not be the case. No sign of them in Age of Sigmar, and I would say there never will be. They don't really fit into the aesthetic of it. The aesthetic being that everyone should look cool and powerful, but definitely not sexy. This is the setting that basically killed off Slaanesh after all. And that does us for today, guys. A bit of a short one, but as the saying goes, when there isn't enough meat in the pie, don't make a long ass drawn out video to try and appease the YouTube algorithm. More details about the Vermintide Tomb stream will come over the next few days, but should be a ton of fun. If you guys have any ideas for YouTubers I should invite into these kind of things, then let me know in the comments below. I want to start doing these a little bit more often because they're just such a ton of fun. If you want to support the channel and get access to a boatload of Warhammer hentai, including the Major Kill Warhammer hentai calendar, which is definitely not endorsed or supported or connected to Games Workshop whatsoever, don't ask about it, then Patreon is the place to be. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more naked content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.